Let's now look at events that are highlights for the week. But before we do that, we need to look at what has significantly changed across the celestial heavens across the about 15, almost 21 days when we've not had an episode. Of course, as we were talking to you, we were on the verge of entering into this very important creative week, the medium surely solstice. That week ended on week 40, so the 7 days that we are counting down as the week number 40 was coming to an end. That week also came to an end, the 7 days. The astrasolar, we're talking about the planet, this planet Venus, which at this point in time is in its astrasolar phase and it's in the prograde period of its cycle. It's entered into what we call to make the ordinary celestial transit into house number 11. Again, this is something that happened on week 40. Would have talked about it as major significance. And then we talk about Uranus. Uranus is a planet, is one of the minor planets, and they are in conjunction. So this one, the mass conjunction of Uranus, this is the entry division of celestial house number 9, started just this week, the week that is ending. We're talking about the end of week 41, just a few days ago. And this one, the perfect alignment, because the conjunction begins at the cusp. That means when the bodies have a separation of 3 degrees in the celestial heavens, depending on what measure you're using. And that particular conjunction attained perfect alignment where there was no difference between masses, longitudinal angular measure or ecliptic longitude. You measure it with the points of beginnings, and you do that the same for the Uranus, you arrive at the very same number. So they were not like essentially on top of each other, because each have different latitudinal values. Their latitude was not the same. What was correct or what was similar, identical to each other, was the measure of the longitude. So that happened earlier today. We cannot give it as a highlight for week number 42 because it's already happened. So this conjunction is also essential because it took place at Mars' celestial transit into celestial house 9. This happened again just within the past few days. It was an important marker for us because there was one of us was making a transitional creative step, and this was an important marker for how we marked the onset of that period and junction in their lives. Now let's look at the highlights for the week. Let's look at the highlights for the week. We still have about 40 minutes to go. We're going to give a little bit more of discussion. I want to listen to appear in the right order. So what about week 42? And that one talks about week number 38. That is huge misnomer. There's a huge misnomer. Shouldn't be week 40, that is because we're week 42 right now. I guess now we have the right reference. Do we have that right reference? Still talking about week 42. Week 38. To be not be week 38, it should be week 42. Talking about week 42, and I need to be certain that that is the correct display that I'm giving. So this has been the constant refrain about our guidelines across the weeks, is that there's something that is happening within Habizelda, and this is the multiplanetary conjunction within Habizelda. The Habizelda is the seventh house of our system, and it's essential because it marks a very important division. House 7, Habizelda, is the point when we are talking about any tropical cycle, the most significant one of which is that of the Sun. When a planetary body makes its transit into house number 7, house Habizelda, it is shifting. It is shifting from the face of darkness to the face of light. This does not apply in a creative sense to, or in the most important creative sense for the more feminine planets. That is the moon, that is planet Venus, that is planet Mercury. For them, we judge their signifiers for darkness and light using the synodic cycle. And the synodic cycle is not related in a direct sense to the celestial houses. The synodic cycle is defined exclusively with reference to that planetary body, which we are talking about, whether it's the moon, whether it's planet Venus, or whether it is planet Mercury, with reference to the sun. And owing to that reason, that is why you usually see that we are talking about, like Venus, we don't give it just a name. If you give it just, we call it Venus, like we have done here. By the way, let me go back there. We did call it ultra solar prograde Venus. But here, because we're talking about this celestial transit is not happening. This is not happening in the synodic cycle. It's happening in the tropical cycle. At the tropical cycle, Venus's prograde status or its ultra solar station is not as of a significant commemoration as it is in the synodic sense. So this is the other 4 planets that we talked about. That is Saturn, Vesta, Neptune, and Aries. And the house conjunction, we are not talking about perfect conjunction, we're talking about house conjunction, or what you can call a de facto conjunction in a sense of speaking. So these are the 4 planets that we've been talking about. They are in house Habizelda, and they are within the hostage, the direct influence of the celestial host being called Pisces. Now, something important is that over the course of this week, over the course of the next 7 days, there is a major planetary body that is going to join this conjunction, and therefore you'll see, of course, it is the moon. The moon will get conjoined to all these planets, the 4 of them, in not in the order in which they are indicated, but in the order in which we saw they are arrayed in the zodiacal planetary order. And I'm keeping on checking about our chart. Please, I see there's at least a couple of people joining us, and within exactly now we've had over 10 people joining us at some point in time. But if you're one of a couple of people who are currently viewing us, it would be great to have your hi. It's important that when you're speaking, we are speaking to somebody. It's not that easy to know, to teach when you're not certain that, or rather, it may look like you're speaking to thin air. So please, that would be very, very helpful and very much appreciated by us. So over the course of the next 7 days, that's what I was talking about, is that we see the moon coming into perfect conjunction, each one of the 7 planets in not 7, 4 of them within Habizelda. Aries is actually just about to make transition into house 8, but it is in all rightful way of ascertaining its progress within Habizelda. It's not made its transition to house number 8. So when you look at the lunar the points on the lunar highlights for this week, we're going to see exactly how and when the moon will be conjoining with either one of the other of these planets over the course of the next 7 days, as I've said. So what about else in week number 48? This still talking about week 38. Okay, so what else is happening is, of course, what began last week, as I was indicating on week 40. Planet Mars went into perfect conjunction with planet Uranus, a minor planet and a major planet here. And Uranus had already made its transition to house number 9, but Mars was making that transition to house number 9 as the conjunction was going, and its perfect alignment was imminent. As I've said, that one is something that happened today. And we're going to witness this conjunction continuously up until Thursday of week number 42. The date for that Thursday is week 20. Is Thursday 24th of the 10th month in the 6th month. The date for this episode was, of course, 19. We started on 19th. But as we are moving towards week 42 at the first day of the week, Sunday, the 20th of the 10th common month in our year. So that conjunction is important. It's an essential one because Mars is a very important programmable planet. It gives us a certain indications. It rules over progress. It rules over new initiatives, especially if you're taking an initiative into a territory you've been never ventured into before. Then the signal and your particular cadence with the cycle of Mercury in its tropical transit across the celestial heavens becomes important. So it's essential. And this is important for making, enterprise ventures in, like, let's say, things like we're taking over. It's about territory. It was used by kings. If you look at ancient societies, you'll realize, in the Gregorian calendar, we have a particular month called March in English. And if you go back to ancient Roman history and look at every military campaign that the Roman Republic undertook, whether it was what of Carthage or Gaul or in one of the forays into the far eastern side of the empire, in Egypt and well into the Middle East, all their military campaigns will be launched in the month dedicated to planet Mars. So they were venturing into something, and they are vastly successful civilization, and that is what I meant. We need to know and understand where this is happening, and therefore this transition, the conjunction that is there, is essentially Uranus. Uranus is actually the planet that guides astrological prognostications. Are very, very important for astrologers as well. So this conjunction is essential, especially even for us in our forest. And that's why we actually had to do this tonight, because it's essential to make use of what is transferring in the sense of this conjunction. Yeah, I'm keeping on checking whether we do have a comment. I can see there are two or three people who are actually actively tuned in. That's good. They are the shyest. They are of a very shy kind. None of them has made any comments. Let's look at anything else that is happening. Now, something else about retrograde Venus. Its perfect conjunction with the lunar DC nodes begin on Tuesday, the 24th. Not the 24th, but the 22nd of the 10th common month. Yes. So perfect conjunction of the lunar DC nodes. So that is important. Remember, Venus has just made its transit to house number 12. That is what we noted about highlights about the things that have happened before we entered into week 42. And the lunar DC node is about also to make the transit, but in the opposite direction. So this conjunction is happening, and it's happening when Venus is at its brightest, coming to the very brightest. Soon we're going to talk about I think about week 47, about 5 weeks from now. Prograde Venus will be making its final forays into its ultra solar prograde phase, and it will come to a standstill, and then you begin its backwards. What it will begin? It's that its fourth phase. We are now in the third phase of its cycle. It's very, very important to understand this cycle, because your particular cadence with the cycle of Venus guides a lot of very, very important relationships within your life. If you have any sort of erotic or romantic relationship with someone, then how well you succeed in that is totally tied to how you are able to speak creatively, to take action creatively within certain markers that are given across the synodic cycle of Venus. And for now, everybody who was born with Venus is an evening star. It's an evening planet. It's very much prominent in our skies. And it's right now about almost 1.5 hour long. No, not 1.5. Yeah, indeed. No, almost 3 hours long. Not 1.5. It's 3 hours long, surgery in the evenings. That means it takes up 2-3 hours, almost close to 3 hours, from the time the sun has set to the time also Mercury also sets in the west. So spectacle is there for plenty of time across our evenings, and this applies across the across the board. The point at which we are coming to the standstill, that is the point when Venus will take the longest in our evening skies, as it is completing that transition and that cycle phase of it. So this conjunction, this just explains part of what we are talking about there. It takes place at the cusp of Neoteran celestial house number 11, number 12. Now, this a highlight that I have just noticed was not given around things that is happening across this week is the culmination of the cycle of Venus, of Mercury and the Sun. So Mercury has now been moving progressively across the last 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks, towards conjunction with the Sun. And towards the end of the week, across about Friday or maybe Saturday, the very end of Saturday, we're going to see a conjunction of the Sun and Venus, and Mercury rather. And that will, for us, be the beginning of a new cycle of influence with Mercury. Mercury is a very, very important planet. I spoke about Venus just a while ago. I spoke about Venus and how essential it is for the sort of, very close relationships that are based on, not on for-profit or really selfish ends, but those are the selfless relationships that exist between you, your partner, sometimes your family members, are very, very close, what we may call, in a way or a manner of speaking, covenant friends. Now, Mercury is not used to any of that. You cannot bring anyone else. When you bring someone else, then Mercury becomes not a very important. But some things that are to do with you and your engagements across variety of spheres, especially for self-improvement. We're talking about things like maybe your career. Could be talking about something about educational achievement. You could be talking about a very vanity project, that is what you call a vanity project, something that you've given your passion towards. Remember, we are just about to begin that cycle. It's happening across the end of this week. And whatever that indicative pointer about this creative phase of Mercury is dependent, of course, with your own cycle. But indeed, in whichever case, whatever your relationship with Mercury is across your natal profile, still the point of beginning and transference in the energy, in the energy released, that will be indicated at the end of the week by this transition is still important. So now, I think we just have one more highlight to look at, and then we will begin transition into the most important part of this of our episode, or rather, we still have to cover the lunar highlights. So, something else that's happening, as I had alluded when you're looking at the planetary maps, is that Neptune's planetary cycle's retrograde phase, it's a tropical planetary cycle. The retrograde phase begins on Thursday. That is for this year. Close a few months of year 7, when Neptune will be in retrograde, and then afterwards it will shift back to its prograde transit across the celestial heavens. Right now, it's at the entry of Habizelda. So those are the planetary highlights, the major ones that I have to do that are happening this week, and what the important things. I've tried to go into some detail as much as possible because we didn't have enough time to delve into that today. Now, let's look at the moon. Because as I say, the moon is the most essential programmable planetary body there is in the celestial heavens. And what is happening across the next 7 days? These are highlights. They are not everything the moon will be doing, but the most significant ones. As I've said, most of them will be conjunctions. There will be conjunctions happening across the celestial, or rather in house number 7. So let's look at those, and so we can do them at a go. This planetary conjunction with Neptune happening on Monday, then Saturn the following day. Every one of these what are instantaneous in the sense that the moment of engagement is instantaneous, and therefore if you seek to make use of every one of these, it's important that you know the exact time we are talking about. So every one of these things happening in the tropical cycle, but there is one that has been indicated as happening in the tropical cycle, while indeed it's not. It is in the synodic cycle. It's been indicated there, and we are talking about synodic third quarter twice. Actually, what is happening is that one of these is the synodic third quarter, but rather the equatorial transit. This is an equatorial transit. And it will happen not in relation with the sun as such, but the AC terrestrial creative gateway. So this is the equivalent. These are what? So sorry for that. But let's first of all talk about what these transitions, these planetary conjunctions. So the first one is with Neptune and then Saturn, and then we go to Wednesday and Thursday when the moon will be in conjunction with Vesta and then with Aries. So then that leaves us these two. The one of it is in the synodic, not in the tropical. So that is within the synodic cycle. So of these 6 events, 5 of them taking place in the tropical cycle. Some of them are transits, others are aspects. One of them is a transit rather. The other 4 are aspects. So indeed, 2 of them are both transits. These 2 are transits. Those happening on Tuesday. The last 2 on Tuesday are both transits, and then the others are aspects and specific conjunctions. So this terrestrial, the AC terrestrial creative gateway point is the very same one we use for equinoxes of the sun. So especially the AC terrestrial gateway point, when the sun transcends it, that is the point we call the AC equinox, the one that happens in the 6th month, in the 7th month of our calendar, and indicates for us the positioning of important holidays such as Good Friday or Pentecost, Shavuot, or rather Pasaka and Shavuot and Good Friday, and then we talk about, of course, Shavuot and the Pentecost many months later. It all comes after the sun in relationship to when the sun crosses the terrestrial gateway point, the ascendant terrestrial creative gateway point. So these are the 7 important, or rather 6, rather, they are not 7, 6 important transitional and aspect related highlights to do with the moon. And again, you have to forgive me because I'm not talking about week 40. We are talking about week 42's major lunar transition alignment. So what you'll notice is that we are not talking about things like squares. We're not talking about sextiles or trines in relationship with the moon, because otherwise you become a little bit unwieldy. The moon is very, very programmable, has very many things that it does, not only on a day-to-day basis, but across even sometimes several days, several times a day. Like you notice, such as these are major changes that are all taking place within 1 24-hour period. So that's it for the highlights.